When these two Navy sailors reconnected at the gym after knowing each other from Naval Base San Diego, Vegas Bray thought Victor Saucedo was the one. They hung out often, and the newly together can't keep our hands off each other phase, well, it was evident with these two. But also evident was the fact that Vegas Bray was extremely jealous. Vegas was jealous of every other woman in Victor's life, especially the mother of his son. After putting up with enough of Vegas's crap, Victor called it quits. But that was the wrong answer for Vegas. That's when she began to stalk him. She parked outside his house to see who was coming in and out. She slashed his tires. She egged his door. And that was just the beginning. So when first responders arrived at Victor's house on October 16th, 2012, they were shocked when Vegas said that Victor had committed suicide. You see, he had been shot 9 times. I repeat, 9 times. Was this really a suicide? Welcome back, True Crime Warriors. I am Mama Margot, and this is my True Crime channel. Today, I released a new episode of my podcast, Military Murder, and this episode is a Cliff Notes version of that episode of the podcast. If you are into all things true crime, be sure to subscribe to my channel because that's all I will be bringing you here. And with that, today I am bringing you the tragic stalking story of Victor Saucedo. Now, let's dig in. Victor Saucedo was born on August 12, 1981. He joined the Navy in 2000 and served as a damage controlman. After serving for over a decade, Victor decided to leave the Navy so that he could remain close to his son. After Victor got out of the Navy, he reconnected with a woman he met when they both served in the Navy. Her name was Vegas Bray. Vegas Bray was a native of the San Diego area. She was born in 1988. She grew up without a dad, and her mom abandoned her when she was 11. But despite this, she was outgoing, good-looking, and seemed to be a rule follower, until she got caught up in a theft when she was in high school. Being from a military town, Vegas didn't give it a second thought, and as soon as she graduated from high school, she joined the Navy. But her Navy career didn't last long when she realized she was not about that military life. Nonetheless, after getting out, she lacked motivation and eventually ended up working at a strip club as a waitress. It was then that she reconnected with Victor. And when she reconnected with Victor, she was all in. There was only one tiny problem. Victor didn't like to be smothered. So after a year of dating, kind of on and off, Victor called it quits. But after the breakup for the following 10 months, Vegas made Victor's life a living hell. Now, Victor's friends agreed that Vegas was out of her mind. She was slashing his tires. She put peanut butter all over his front door. And one time, Victor even confided in his friends that one night when she had spent the night, he woke up, she was sitting on his chest and had a gun pointed at his face. What in the world? The problem is that every single time Victor reported it to authorities, they didn't really take him seriously. And it was probably because Vegas, she was 5'2" tall. Victor was 6'1". But even then, she still threatened him with bodily harm. But even with the fear and the threats, Vegas and Victor would occasionally hook up. Kind of like friends with benefits. The problem with this friends with benefits relationship was that Victor understood this is just sex. But Vegas didn't quite understand that. Every single time she hooked up with Victor, she thought that there was hope for the two of them. During the times that Victor would avoid Vegas, he would be extreme. Sometimes he would borrow his friend's car to kind of lose her so she didn't know which car he was driving. And one time he even moved apartments hoping that she wouldn't find him. But she did. Finally, one day, Victor decided to offer an olive branch. That olive branch was he was willing to co-sign on an apartment for her in the same apartment complex where he lived because he was thinking, okay, maybe if she sees that I'm taking this step, maybe she'll realize that we can just be cool, that we could just be friends. So on the night before he was supposed to co-sign this lease, he and Vegas got together at his apartment. They started drinking, one thing led to the next, and they ended up spending the night together. The very next morning when they woke up, Vegas was smitten. She asked Victor if he wanted to go to breakfast with her, but he said no. at which point she told him off and then barged out. That day, Vegas went about her business. She ended up meeting up with her half-brother to get something done, and then she was scheduled to meet up with a friend at the gym. But instead, Vegas decided that she was going to go through with her plan to murder Victor Saucedo. Yep, you see, Vegas had been plotting Victor's murder for months. She had a bucket list consisting of various phases, and I'm going to read them to you. Phase 1, block the people I need to block from my Facebook account. Send all notes to my email, including everything I found on my ex. Phase 2, buy a gun, clean out my car, my purse, and pack everything away. Send my fam a goodbye video. It's the last time they'll hear my voice. Phase 3, find him, kill him. And the last item was for her to kill herself. What in the world? Yep, this was found as evidence after Victor's murder. So we don't really know how everything went down. What we do know is that Vegas went back to her house. She retrieved her gun and bullets. She went back to Victor's house. He must have let her in. She shot him 6 times, reloaded her gun, and then shot him 3 more times. When she dialed 911, she told the dispatcher that she didn't know what happened. She basically just called and said, there's a guy, he's laying here, he looks like he's dead. I don't actually know what happened. By the time first responders arrived, she changed her story and told them that Victor had killed himself. But a quick look at Victor's body showed that many of those shots could have been fatal in and of themselves. So it wasn't possible for him to have shot himself this many times. Detectives looked at her and they were like, something isn't adding up. But she stuck to her story. She blacked out and she didn't remember what happened. But eventually, she said too much and she was charged with Victor's murder. And once the autopsy came back, the autopsy corroborated the charge. You see, Victor had been shot in the face 3 times. He had been shot in the shoulders each 1 time. He had been shot in the chest, in the stomach, in the back, and he even had a gunshot through his hand or like on his hand, indicative that he was trying to defend himself. No one was buying Vegas's blackout story. Vegas murdered Victor. She planned his murder for months, and then when he rejected her that day, she realized today is the day. And listen, during Vegas's preliminary hearing, there was a witness on the stand who was testifying about how jealous Vegas often got. And this is what happened during that preliminary hearing.
I'm not gonna go down for something I don't remember doing. I'm not going down for a murder that didn't even happen. I didn't know. I'm not going down for something I don't remember doing. And if people can't tell the story straight, this is probably why I'm here in the first place.
The judge nor Vegas's attorney could get her under control, so the judge was forced to call the bailiff to escort Vegas out of the courtroom. Not surprisingly, Vegas's attorney requested a mental health evaluation, and the judge granted it. 3 months later, a court-appointed psychologist deemed Vegas unfit to stand trial due to mental incapacity. And sadly, Victor's family would have to wait 2 additional years to finally have their day in court. On October 15th, 2015, almost 3 years to the day of Victor's murder, Vegas was deemed fit to stand trial. At trial, the prosecutor laid out the evidence against Vegas. Primarily that murder to-do list, remember, that she had? And also they presented evidence that after she murdered Victor, she called her stepbrother. It was her stepbrother who called her back and convinced her to dial 911. They presented social media evidence where Vegas, no kidding, posted something to the effect of, "I literally wanna just kill Vic." And then 11 days before she actually went through with the act, she wrote herself a note saying, "Just say that she was obsessed with killing him." But the defense had something up their sleeve. During the trial, the defense presented evidence of Baby Bray. She was like Vegas Bray's evil alter ego, but she was a whole other person, her split personality. Vegas had told detectives during their initial interrogation about Baby Bray. She made her up in middle school, and Baby Bray did all of Vegas's dirty work. But the jury didn't believe Vegas's shenanigans, and on November 2nd, 2015, they found her guilty of first-degree murder. A week later, Vegas was sentenced to 50 years to life. After multiple unsuccessful appeals, the judges told Vegas to kick rocks. Vegas is currently at the Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla. Victor Saucedo lost his life when he was 31 years old. He is survived by his parents, his siblings, and his young son. In wrapping up this video, I wanted to present you with some information about stalking. So I went to the Stalking Awareness website that gives everyone 5 tips if you are a victim of stalking. Tip number 1 was to trust your instincts. Even if you feel like, oh, maybe this isn't, maybe really this isn't considered stalking. It basically just said to trust your instincts. Tip number 2, call police if you feel like you are in immediate danger. And I think that's kind of a no-brainer, but sometimes you might feel like maybe I'm overreacting, but it's always better to call the police than to not call the police and regret it later. Tip number 3 is really important, and you should start this kind of early on, but it's basically to record everything. So if you have a stalker or you have someone who has stalkerish tendencies, basically keep a log of everything that's going on. If they're calling you frequently, write down the exact times that they're calling you. If they send you a gift, write down the date and the time that that gift was sent. Just kind of keep a log so that you could present it later. Tip number 4 is in the same vein, and it's basically to save evidence. So screenshot any type of text messages that they're sending you or any type of call logs, anything on social media. If they're stalking you outside, and you can see their car, either you try and take a discreet picture or have someone else take a discreet picture so that you can provide all of this as evidence. And tip number 5 is to get connected with a victim's service provider in your local area, someone who can help you come up with a plan and kind of give you the resources for that immediate area where you are. Thank you so much for coming to my channel, and thank you for watching this very important video on Victor Saucedo. Victor's case does go to show that men can also be victims of stalking. That's all I have for this video. If you're interested in the longer form, make sure that you check out my podcast, Military Murder. I just dropped an episode on Victor Saucedo today. And also be sure that you subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss my next video. And with that, I'll see you next time. Bye.